Welcome to open class number 106. I hope will bring a lot of value to you. The first thing that you probably wonder when you see this is how to get that nice hoodie that Daniel has. Well, this actually I got it a few days ago, but I haven't I haven't worn it or talked about it until now because now the shop is ready. If you would like to support the channel in style, you can head to thesleepcoachschool.com and get one. It comes in many different colors, etc. I'm very pleased with it. Anyways, let's get right into the episode. So we have messages from I think 5 or 6 people here that we're going to go over. As always, nothing here is medical advice, just general thoughts and questions that I hope will bring a lot of value to anyone that tunes in, including, of course, the person who submitted said question. So let's open here with one from Julie. And by the way, Lynn, if you're hearing this, and someone else too was wondering about like which program may be good for me, etc. We can learn a lot from Julie's question here. Let's go over it. Julie says, hello, I've had insomnia for roughly 19 years. I worked in neurologist education for the last 10 years for the state of Illinois, mentioning to my sleep struggles to many who had completed fellowships in sleep or had strong interest in sleep, both hard to find, and followed any referral they suggested to other specialists or institutions, sleep specialists, multiple sleep medications, supplement combos, allergy, gastro, functional medicine, endo, cognitive behavioral therapy, full psych evaluation 2020, sleep hygiene therapy, sleep psychology, 3 full hormone panels looking for dysfunction. Nothing besides Ambien in the world has worked more than 1 to 2 weeks. I'm very new to your techniques and very hopeful. I have hopped onto the Slack messaging and personally find it very overwhelming. The strings of questions almost seems to create more anxiety of learning how to sleep again. Would the BedTyme app be more helpful? Thanks, Julie. So first of all, Julie, I want to say I'm super glad that you came across my channel. Insomnia really is driven by the attempts at trying to kind of control sleep, trying to figure it out, trying to get to the bottom of it, try to understand it. And oftentimes you're not really getting any real meaningful education, even if you talk to people that are like sleep doctors, like myself. The training I got in sleep fellowship was, it was kind of somewhat helpful, but it didn't explore like what insomnia really is in depth at all. So I'm not surprised at all to hear that you've been led in directions that actually have not been that helpful to you. Now, whenever somebody tells me I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've done this, I've done this, that actually makes me very hopeful and encouraged, because when you understand sleep and you understand that, okay, the more things you try, the more trouble you have, right? Then that long list of things becomes something like, oh, so the less I do, the easier sleep will happen. Yes. When it becomes like, oh, so this whole range of things that I've been doing and that you probably still are doing, that actually is the key, right? Because when you start to understand more, it feels kind of easy to let go of this thing. You understand even more, then you can let go of this other thing, and then sleep happens all by itself easier and easier, right? So again, the more things you've done and the more experimentation you've done in a way that should make you more hopeful, like you are. So very glad to hear that. Now, on a practical note here, and by the way, when I saw this message from Julie, I immediately emailed, because when you're enrolled in that, so Julie was enrolled in that, or is enrolled in the group coaching program here on the Sleep Coach School, and there's a Slack channel, and Julie you could have just messaged me within Slack, but I understand also that this whole Slack forum can be sort of overwhelming, and that is the thing. So for anyone that is like, yeah, I think I like the teachings here on the school, I like NATO, but I wonder, like, how should I proceed? Should I just stay on the channel and kind of self-directed learning, read a book, or should I enroll in these programs? Well, it's good to know this, that the group coaching program has these drop-in classes twice a week actually now, where it's kind of Zoom-based. It's myself and usually around like 3 to 6 other people that have a discussion around insomnia and sleep. And then there's a Slack channel, which is like a forum where everybody can post and everybody can answer it, but I moderate it. So I answer most of the questions myself. Now, this said, it can be overwhelming because you hear of somebody who's doing really well and they have done this and that, and somebody else is really struggling with this thing. And then, when somebody's doing well, you're like, how can I do that? And somebody's really struggling, like, oh, I don't want that, and this idea and that idea, and it can be overwhelming. So I think if you are a person who you are in the midst of a lot of struggle, and you're kind of like, your brain is very easily triggered and led into different directions, then a one-on-one option may be better, So BedTyme may definitely be better if that is the case, because you're kind of like, there's no distraction. It's just one-on-one coaching, one curriculum, and here's the path, right? On the other hand, if you're not so kind of like easily triggered, and you would more like a kind of an ongoing, like a support group type of thing, kind of like a membership to a gym. You check in when you feel like it. You don't have to be very active, and maybe there's not so much urgency there. You've understood quite a lot yourself, but you just need a little bit more support, etc. Then the group coaching program may be a great option. So those, I think, are things that can be helpful. But Julie, I look forward to getting a response to your email, and of course we can move forward from there. Okay, live here is Shankal says, hi Daniel, I actually bought your book recently, thank you. It was a great read, and I went on a detox for about a month. Been a good experience with one night where I slept very little in the last 3 weeks. Fantastic. I'm super happy to hear this. And thanks for sharing. The detox Shankal is talking about is kind of when you started to understand, okay, I see why I had trouble sleeping, and I understand it, and maybe I don't need to learn more right now. Maybe I should just take a sleep detox, leave the whole sleep world, and not even listen to this channel or whatnot. That can be really, really helpful. So that's cool. Shankal does have a question about taking naps. Yes, go ahead, Shankal. I'll answer. Okay, here it goes. How do I get back to taking naps again? Okay. So let's leave that there. Naps are, sleep that happens during the daytime typically. Theoretically, if somebody sleeps during the day and takes a little nap during the night, that's also a nap, right? The technical definition, which isn't important, but I'm just mentioning it here, is that if it's less than half of whatever your major portion of sleep is, then it's considered a nap. Anyway, so why is it that so many people experience that I could take a nap before? Okay, and Shankal says, it seems that daytime is much harder than night. Yeah, many people describe that how in the past they could take a nap and they also had no trouble sleeping at night. But then when you have trouble sleeping, then there's a struggle to sleep at night, but also I just can't nap anymore. I just can't nap. And the thing here is that there's really actually no mystery. It's the same thing. It's, whenever we don't sleep at night, it is because of that kind of the hyperarousal, the worry about what if I wake up? What if I can't sleep? And kind of the desire to sleep and the fear of being awake keeps you from sleeping at night. And the same plays out during the day. You feel kind of a little sleepy, you're like, I think I would like to take a nap, and you may lay down. But then that fear comes again, what if I don't sleep? What if I can't nap? What if I can never nap? And things of that nature. They may not be obvious, those thoughts, but they're these type of thoughts that keep you from not sleeping when you go for a nap. So how do you kind of get past that? Well, I think the most kind of practical and easy way is to look at it as a resting, with no expectation. Meaning you feel like I think I could really enjoy a nap right now. Then you can lay down, close your eyes, but more think of it as I'm just gonna rest now. If sleep happens, that's nice. If it doesn't happen, well, that's good. That's fine too. I rested. And when you don't have that expectation of sleep, and you see that I can still have a good day without a nap, I can still do fine without a nap, etc., then it'll happen when it happens. Something like that. So just kind of look at it as some rest with no expectations of anything in particular. And that will be a really nice path, I think. Hope that helps, Shankal. And let me know if there's follow-up questions. And again, thanks so much for sharing the nice, encouraging message there. Okay, let us continue on to Andreas, who I actually know. Andreas was briefly a member of the group coaching program. But anyway, hi Daniel. I have a question for you about sleep confidence. I'm reading The Effortless Sleep Method by Sasha Stevens. I really like the thoughts outlined in the book. One thing which I find difficult to believe, though, is the emphasis on starting to believe that you're a good sleeper. This, for me, creates a kind of performance anxiety and contradicts the thought of letting go of control about sleep. I found a lot of success recently in that I have just went on with my life regardless of how I sleep, with all kinds of anxiety. I find that the most important thing is to not let your anxiety take over your life. Thanks for all the work you do. All the best, Andreas. Anytime, Andreas. So happy to see that you're, staying in touch and sending this question. And of course, that you've seen this truth in, like, when we fight the anxiety, then kind of like becomes sticky. When we're like, I can do things even if I'm anxious. I'm just going to let go of it and be present with it and not try to make it go away, etc. That leads to peace of mind and peaceful sleep as well. And I think you're absolutely right. I think when you read The Effortless Sleep Method by Sasha Stevens, I think the first part of the book is so powerful when she describes her own story. And a lot of her, she doesn't call them recommendations, she calls them like her promises, make a lot of sense. But having had a chance to actually talk to her as a guest on this channel, I don't know if Sasha, if you hear this, if you'd agree with me, but I sense that there had been a lot of kind of change in probably her approach from when she wrote the book until like now. Meaning, I think if she wrote the book now, it would be a little bit more gentler, and I think she probably would have maybe written the affirmations in a little bit different way. Because what you point out, Andreas, I think is very, very true. That if you're having trouble sleeping, and if you sort of try to just convince yourself that there's nothing wrong with you, kind of in a forceful way, then it's probably just going to backfire. Exactly like you said. If you're like, I am a good sleeper, I can sleep, I'm the best sleeper in the whole world. You write this down, you tell it this to yourself, but you don't really believe it. Then there's kind of friction inside, and it doesn't sound right, and it sounds false, and like it just creates friction and some struggle there. So I absolutely believe that it is, and performance anxiety, like you said. Like, I'm a great sleeper, but why didn't I sleep well? I should, etc. Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's much more helpful to think of it as there is no good sleeper or bad sleeper. It's kind of like Ali pointed out when she was a guest on the channel. It's like, think of it as like a good eater or a good breather. Eating is just something that we do to get nutrients into our bodies. Breathing is just something we do to get air into our bodies. Sleeping is something we do to probably like process memories and things of that nature. And no matter what it feels like, it is not something we can't lose the ability to sleep, like, and things of that. It's just like we can't lose the ability to breathe, right? We can have a lot of struggle sleeping, but we still, we can still process memories, even if it's real foggy headed and things like that. So nothing to be scared of there. And I kind of drifted off from the point I was trying to make, which was that yes, the person who sleeps well is not a good sleeper. It's just that person isn't trying to sleep, and so when you don't even think of it as good sleeper, bad sleeper, it's just like there is no good breather, bad breather. It's just sleep just happens. It's just a thing like that. And then you let go of that performance anxiety and all the attempts to convince your brain and those. So absolutely, you're on the 100% on the right track, I believe. Very well. And Shankal actually talked about the naps, and he said, yes, I tried that, and I had a few success cases, which for those of you who are coming in late here, we talk about napping, and I think Shankal is saying that, yes, I just say he, just my default, but maybe I should say they did try to kind of like just rest, lay down and rest, and sometimes there was success, meaning sometimes Shankal slept. And that shows that when you're just lying down to rest, and there's no expectation of sleep, and sleep can happen easier. But I will say that success is a little bit tricky, because if you think as like, if you wake up from a nap and yes, I fell asleep, I did it, then that will create some kind of like, again, like a little bit performance anxiety. And the next time you go and you want to take a nap, then you're like, I hope I can do it this time. Like, I hope I can have success. If you think of it more as maybe not success, just like as a, yeah, it just kind of like, it just happened because I wasn't trying to sleep. then next time you go to take a nap, you're not looking for success. You're just like, yeah, if I sleep, that's nice. If not, then that's okay too. That leads to kind of a gentle path with no performance anxiety, etc. So the success is a tricky word, because I use it, I have a whole playlist called success stories, right? Which implies that sleeping well is kind of success, which it's not true. It's a tricky word, but I think of success as success to me is like when you learn things, that's a success, that's good, that's helpful. When you can experience anxiety and all this discomfort with clarity and without trying to run away from it, I think of that as success, and education we talked about and things like that. But whenever you think of like as sleeping or making sleep happen or sleeping a certain amount or things like that as success, that's the path towards like some trouble and performance anxiety. But yeah, just a little thing there, Shankar. Again, super glad to read this, and you're already doing well, and you'll do really, really well going forward. Also, I know that just by reading this. Okay, we have a question from Dylan. Let's read this. Dylan says, "Hi, I wanted to reach out to see if you have any suggestions on how to solve my insomnia. I have been suffering with insomnia for a couple of years, and I've based my life around it. I have this fear that if I don't sleep, I will lose control of my mind and start hallucinating. Being overtired is a fear of mine because I believe if it gets worse, then I will not be able to cope. I've been doing all right with sleeping recently, but I've not had to wake up for anything specific. I'm starting to work soon and fear that I will not be able to handle the pressure of waking up at a specific time. Thank you." Okay, so I want to say that, Dylan, I'm very glad that you found the channel, because I think so much of you say here are things that so many people can relate to. And if you happen to be pretty new to the channel, then check out that success stories playlist that is in the description of the videos, and you will find that the whole building your life around sleep and trying to control sleep and kind of having like a ritual and like, I can do this, but I can't do that, etc., is so common. And when you see that this is super common, nothing strange or unusual at all, and you also see that when people move sort of in a different direction and go towards, okay, in the past, I would never allow myself to be out after 10 p.m. because then I may not sleep, and go and move from that towards, oh, why should I do that? I should, just like everyone else, I can go out and have a good time with my friends or stay out or do whatever I want, go towards like freedom and courage, then everything changes. And you experience that sleep can happen even if you stay up late, or even if you have a coffee. Like even if you're, sleep can happen. It's the fear, it's the trying to protect sleep and the preoccupation with sleep. That's what keeps you from sleeping well. And the more you try to kind of protect sleep, the more struggle you have. And that actually kind of segues well into the question here, which is, what when I now have this work and I have to get up the same time every morning? What's going to happen then? And there's, of course, this fear that you will not sleep at all at night, and then you will go to work and you'll be super tired, and then things will snowball from then on. But in reality, flexibility is often not your friend. That's kind of how I like to phrase it. Flexibility is often not your friend. It often seems like I haven't had this obligation in the morning, so therefore it's if I struggle at night, it's okay because I can just catch up in the day. But in reality, it isn't that helpful, because it just creates this scenario where you don't sleep at night, and then you're like catching up during the day, and then it seems like you should catch up. You have to catch up. You have to get sleep whenever you can, because you're not getting it at night, so at least you can get it in the morning. But in reality, this just reinforces the idea that sleep is something you have to chase. You have to try to get it when you can. You have to chase sleep and run away from wakefulness, right? So this flexibility, it actually just feeds this continued struggle, if you will. So then when you have this obligation, then by default, that chase for sleep stops happening, because you can't. You have to be up and go to work. And now the first few days, it can be quite tricky, because it may happen that you don't sleep much at all and have to get up. But that gives you the opportunity to see that you can actually function surprisingly well. Even if you're tired, exhausted, etc., you can do a lot of meaningful work that day. And when you start seeing that, then you start seeing that, oh, even if I don't sleep much, nothing catastrophic happens. I'm still safe. I can still do things. And then the whole kind of picture starts changing. And so having that, having to get up at a certain time every morning, it actually typically is very, very helpful. So Dylan, I hope that made sense. Jake says, sleep to live, don't live to sleep. Can't claim credit for that one, but I like the message of it. Yeah. And, you know, don't live to sleep. Yeah, don't. If you center your whole life around how you sleep, then sleep will become the whole center of your life, right? It will become this preoccupation of work, etc. And when they take it down from the pedestal, if you will, then it just happens easier, and everything else happens easier too. Thanks, Jake. Okay, let's move along here to Lynn's question. I mentioned this, Lynn, actually earlier. And so we kind of already answered this one, but Lynn says, hi, Daniel. I would like to take your course, but I have a couple of questions. Should I read your books first? How many months does one usually need to be successful? Many thanks. So I want to say to Lynn that reading one or both of my books is absolutely no requirement at all. If you're interested in reading one of them, I think this one, Set It, Forget It, is it's an easy read, and I think it's very approachable, etc. So it can be really helpful. But I've had many clients who haven't read any of my books. I have many clients who have read one or two of my books. It doesn't really make a big difference. I think if somebody has read them and already understands a lot of teaching, that can help. But on the other hand, if you're kind of completely new to the teaching too, that sometimes that's helpful too, because there's kind of like everything is fresh and new, and you start understanding along with guidance and support, like that could help too. So I guess the last thing on that topic is if you read the book, you may find that you don't need to enroll in a course or program, which could be nice, of course. Now the second question is how long does it usually take to be successful? This is a very, very tricky question. First and foremost, because the whole reason we have insomnia is a desire for control, the desire to control something that cannot be controlled, which is sleep. And again, the more you try to control it, the more struggle you have. And now this question is sort of in the same vein of like I would like to have some sort of predictability or some sort of control or idea of how long this is going to take. And the more you kind of forecast and predict and speculate, the more you have kind of like, oh, it typically takes this much time. So if I do well by that time, that's good. If I don't, then something may be wrong. Like that, you can sense how that having any type of time goal is really, really tricky. So keep in mind that the more you're like, this will take some time. I don't know exactly how much it will, but I'm learning, and that's really helpful, and we'll see what happens. Sort of that kind of open approach. That actually paradoxically it leads to like you doing well the soonest. It's this paradox again that the more you want to have control and know when you're going to do well, the longer it typically takes. The more you're like, we'll see how long it takes. I'm not going to pressure myself. Then actually you get to where you want to be sooner. And now, so having said all that, with that big preamble, right? Keeping that in mind, that's the most important. I feel like I also want to share something that's more tangible and some idea. So I've had like the longest I worked with a client was probably like a year, but that was definitely an outlier. The majority of the clients I have on BedTyme on the app, I think, actually, I saw data on this, like 50% stay on so out of everybody who signs up for the app, 70% stay on after the first free trial, okay? And 50% after the second, after 5 weeks. So, and after that, it really goes down pretty quickly. So most people graduate within about 2 months. Most people do. But again, You don't know. All we know is that, what we know for sure is that when you understand and the fear starts fading, then you do really well. The group coaching program, I've seen that it's becoming more of kind of like a membership that, you know, a lot of people are there because I have clients in the group coaching program that I think actually don't need to be there, you know, but find some value in hearing other stories and find some value in the drop-in classes and learning more about like just life in general. So I think that's becoming more like, for most people, it's kind of a longer commitment there. So anyway, hope that gave you a little bit of an idea, Lynn. And if you decide to join the app or the program, I look forward to working with you. All right, here's Aryan, who has the mystery for us. So let's see if we can solve it. Hi, Daniel. Hope you're doing well. I am. Thank you for asking. So I wanted to ask you a serious question regarding my sleep. I have insomnia for the past year, but something strange is happening recently. I'm pretty sure I'm not fearful of sleep anymore. But even after that, I'm not able to fall asleep. I'm not hyper-aroused, no fear, no racing heartbeat. I feel calm. Even after that, I'm not able to fall asleep. Today, I had absolutely no sleep whatsoever. I'm not attached to sleep anymore, but I don't know what is wrong here. Can you please solve this mystery of mine? Thanks for all your hard work, Aryan. Anytime. I'm so happy that you are here and submitted this question. And it is a very common one, actually. It is a common one. And it basically boils down to this. The question kind of becomes, I'm not anxious, so why am I not sleeping? Okay? And the key to this mystery is understanding hyperarousal. All right? And before that, just so I don't forget it, I just, when I read your message, Aryan, I thought this is actually a sort of a nice approach to your struggle with sleep, if you will. Meaning, it's not easy, of course, when you're in the struggle to think of it this way, but if you think of it as kind of a riddle or a mystery, and like your job is kind of to understand it, to kind of solve the riddle, that can actually be helpful. Again, this can be a little tricky because I always say like there's not like it's nothing to figure, like when you try to figure it out, that's not helpful. But what I mean by that is when you go online and you search like here and there, right and left, like, oh, is it this, is it that? No. But if you think of it as sort of a riddle within yourself, like the riddle is, I need to understand my own mind and how I work and how my thoughts work and how my feelings work and things like that. And if you approach it with a curiosity about yourself, that could be a really nice way to approach learning about sleep, insomnia, about yourself, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of just like the tone of this message. I thought it was a helpful one. But anyway, so back to the mystery. I'm not anxious anymore. Why am I not sleeping? Okay, hyperarousal is the key. What is hyperarousal? Hyperarousal is this like heightened emotional state that is one of like anticipation and preparation. You know, something is about to happen. I don't know exactly why, but I'm in this a little bit heightened sense of alertness. And that can come from, of course, anxiety and fear. Those are the most common ones when we have insomnia. But here's the thing. Hyperarousal can also come from excitement. You know, a kid before day before their birthday, they sleep very little. They're like, oh, I'm so excited about my birthday. They don't know exactly what's going to happen this day. Something nice, right? They're excited. Or curiosity, like a wonder, you know, puzzlement. And that's the key here. I'm not anxious anymore. So why am I not sleeping? There is curiosity there. And now the curiosity has replaced anxiety as a source of hyperarousal. So the wondering if I will sleep, the puzzlement, the kind of like, that now is the reason sleep isn't happening. I call this trailing insomnia. And I believe I wrote about that in This Is Nato. Trailing insomnia. So it's kind of like the anxiety is gone. But insomnia is kind of still trailing, but now it's because of that curiosity or puzzlement, right? And so the key there is just to understand this, because when you understand it, then you're naturally less curious because, oh, I'm just awake because I'm curious. Oh, so that's it. Nothing more to like ponder about. You've understood something about yourself, your mind, and the mystery is solved, and sleep can happen. I hope that helped, Aryan. If I misunderstood or anything like that, please let me know. Daniel, I think the name is actually Daniel here, because I've seen a a question from Damicia on, I think, Facebook. So anyway, thanks for sending this, Damicia. And she says, hi, Coach Al. I'm sleeping better. However, I do tend to think about my sleep about 65% of the time. I think my anxiety and thought problems about sleep is my problem. I totally understand this one. And I just had a question about this, like from one of my clients today, who similarly said that, you know, she's sleeping pretty well for a stretch, and she's actually having good days. She's enjoying her days, but the thoughts about sleep are still there. You know, there's still some anxiety there. And this can be a little bit of a tricky situation to be in, because you can easily think, wait a minute, if I'm sleeping better and I'm having okay days, but I'm still anxious about it, like, what's going to make the anxiety go away? If sleeping well doesn't make the anxiety go away, then what will, right? And although it seems tricky, the answer is actually quite simple, and it's always the same, which is that you're thinking about sleep about 65% of the time. Anxiety is there, right? You're thinking about your sleep a lot. Now, remember that thoughts are by nature fleeting, you know? So if you think about your sleep during the day, but you don't try to sort of stop those thoughts, you don't think of thinking of sleep as something negative or bad or something you need to make it go away, then it will become fleeting. So it's actually the attempts at trying to stop thinking about sleep, or believing that thinking about sleep is not something you should be thinking about, that what keeps it there 65% of the time, right? So when you sort of take the approach of like, I'm thinking about sleep again, and that's natural. You know, my brain has been scared for a while, and of course it's going to want to think about sleep, and that's okay. That's when, you know, things, those thoughts kind of fade, and along with it, the anxiety that comes from the thoughts start to fade. So again, allow thoughts to happen, and don't judge yourself for them. Don't think of it as anything strange or unusual, and they fade. They fade. Finally, Emerald says, I'm also having problems with insomnia and sleep anxiety. It's a very short message, Emerald, but I just want to say that you have definitely come to the right place. You know, so many people in this community will recognize this, and I think when you just start learning and applying what you learn here, etc., you'll do really well. So thanks for submitting that, Emerald, and I want to say thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone for being here. And I hope this brought a lot of value. I'll be back next week with, I have some episodes that I'm really excited about. One is this roadmap that I worked on that actually, yes, it is part of This Is NATO, but I want to show you a nice kind of PDF that is going to be available to download. That's going to be one episode. And oh yeah. And also, if you have time, really want to talk about sort of a new direction of the philosophy. Actually, nothing changes in the teaching, but basically I've thought so much lately about how the struggle with sleep can be this kind of like entryway, this kind of this doorway into something that teaches you about yourself, you know, and helps with so many things beyond sleep, right? I really want to focus on, I really want to talk about that, because I think that shift in looking at like the trouble sleeping, not as like I mostly looked at it as like that this person has a problem, and I can help solve that problem, right? You know, natural, right? But if you could change it a little bit to like, this person has this struggle, great. Now this person has the opportunity to learn about themselves in a way that really frees them from so much suffering and struggle in their lives. That subtle change, I think, is really helpful. Like, you know, it kind of like brings an element of like excitement and opportunity to a place where there's typically like a sticky place, a place of a lot of frustration. And again, I think this can help. I think this shift can help. So anyway, I'm excited about talking about that and much more. So hope everyone has a really nice weekend, and look forward to having you back real soon. Until then, take it easy now.